All right, over the top here. Today I want to talk about something I noticed in other people's bug out bags. Um, Something that caught my eye, and I just wanted to share something with everybody. I noticed that everybody had some of these jig heads in their emergency bag, so that they could go ahead and catch fish if they were out by a lake or by a river. That's fine. They keep that stuff in there, but I gotta let you know that that stuff ain't always gonna work for catching fish. These usually work for bass. They'll go up and try and snatch them, and you know how it works if you go out fishing. But like I said, those don't always work. Um, you always want to keep a backup in your bag because I've been out fishing before, and I've been fishing for bass, and I've been out there for a few hours fishing, and I've never caught anything. Don't get me wrong, I've caught bass, but in a day that I was out there for a few hours, I sometimes don't catch anything at all. I'll use spoons, I'll use crankbaits, I'll use worms, I'll use soft baits. I'll use those. I'll switch them out to see what the fish are attracted to. I'll sometimes add scent on them to attract the fish, maybe because sometimes um, the fish don't really go for just the worm itself. Sometimes it helps to keep some scent on there. Um, I have cotton bass off the spoons, like I said, and worm and some of the soft baits, but sometimes they aren't biting in the day. Like I said, you could be out there for a few hours and you're not going to catch anything at all. And especially in a bug out situation, emergency situation, where there are a lot of people out there looking for you, I doubt you're going to want to be standing next to a river or a lake, along the shoreline, along the water's edge, casting your line in, reeling it in, casting it, reeling it in, casting it, walking down, the river around the lake, paying attention to catching fish rather than paying attention to your surroundings. You're going to get caught up that way. Somebody's going to catch you and they're going to take your stuff or maybe even kill you. So don't always just go with these type of baits. You want to go with something that you're going to be able to just throw your line in and leave it there, stay hidden for a while, and come back to check on your line. Be there for a few seconds or a couple minutes, and then get back into your hiding position. And the best fish to do that with is catfish. Catfish, you throw your line in, you leave your line there, and after a while you'll come to find that you have a catfish on your line. I know catfish aren't the cleanest fish, but you can eat it. You clean it out, you cook it, it's fine. Um, when I usually go out fishing for catfish, I don't use any of this stuff here that you see. These crankbaits, these jig heads, the spoons, the worms. I don't use any of that for catfish. What I use is some dip bait, some stink bait that I use. I use that, and almost every time in an hour or so, I have a catfish. It could go in, I think I've caught one a little over 5 pounds before out in one of the rivers that I go fishing to. Um, what I've had, what I've caught fish with also is these Berkeley Gulp earthworms. I've caught some carp and some catfish with this stuff here. One time I was fishing at Lake Powell in Utah, I believe it was, and I had two poles. I cast two lines in, and I would go out and check my line every once in a while, and I would come to find out that I had some fish caught on my line. I think I believe it was three carp and two catfish, and so it was a total of five fish that I had caught for the night. After I had caught those five fish, I went ahead and called it a night, and I was done. Went back home, filleted them, and ate them. They say that carp really don't taste good, but I ate them, and it wasn't that bad. I mean, it was food, so I ate it. Especially in an emergency situation, you're gonna eat it. I mean, people eat bugs and other stuff. Why not eat that? So I wanted to go ahead and let you guys know that this is a good investment for your emergency kit. It's about $5 at Walmart, $4 or $5, something like that. So I'm keeping this in my bag. I also have some scented shrimp. It's for salt water, but it also works for fresh water as well. I mean, the catfish are attracted to it. So anything to improve your chances, you don't just want to stick with one thing. Like I said, it's hard to catch bass sometimes. It just depends, if they're hungry or not. Catfish are bottom feeders. They're always, to me, they seem to be always eating. So you might want to pick up some stuff that's for catfish. Something that's going to be sealed up. Of course, it's not going to be leaking all over your bag. Um, and don't just keep a few hooks in your bag as well. Don't I mean I see some people with just 3 or 4 hooks in their bag and say, well, that's crazy, because if you don't have the right line, say you have a 10 pound line or an 8 pound line, and it breaks and the fish takes off with your hook. There goes one hook. Now you're down to two, and then you do the same thing, and say you have a 5 pound catfish on your line or a 5 pound bass or whatever, and you're reeling it in, and that fish happens to jerk to try and get away, and another line snaps. So now you're down to one hook. So me, I keep a little container, and I keep a lot of fish hooks in there because I've fished plenty of times with thin line with light pounds, and that line busts, and that fish is gone with my hook. So I usually use braided line, and I usually use, I think it's a 20 pound line, and that thing handles very well. It doesn't break. It's got a lot of strength to it. So this is the container I keep in my bag. It's a small container, as you can see. It was a soap container, but I turned it into my emergency kit, which I keep in my Alice pack. I got other stuff in here. I don't keep all this stuff in my bag. A lot of these crankbaits and some of these soft baits, I just would use it to go out fishing, and then the worms and some other stuff. This is what I keep in my bag. So some sinkers, and that's another thing you want to keep in your bag, are some sinkers, so that you can make sure that your bait actually sinks to the bottom where the catfish are feeding. You don't have to cast your line, 100 yards in for a catfish. It doesn't have to go that far. Maybe a few yards in, 10 yards. The catfish will smell it. They will come up. They will take the bait, and you will get a catch. You will have a fish on. So, yeah. So go ahead and look into some different baits. Don't stick to one. Always have a backup. All right. Just wanted to let you guys know about that. So, all right. Over the top here. I'm out.